friends. I miss you guys so much. I wish that I could see you. But I'm glad I can make these videos so that you can keep learning all those things that we were learning. Remember for our core lessons, which is when we do the flip book like this, we're learning all about plants. We talked about things that are not living and non-living. We talked about photosynthesis, which is that huge big word we were learning about. We were learning about the life cycle of a plant. Remember what plants need to grow? Water, food, sun, and air. So today, we're gonna learn about Polly the honeybee. She's gonna teach us some things about plants. Hello, my name is Polly and I'm a honeybee. I live in a beehive not too far from here. Your teacher asked me today to come here to tell you about flowers. I hear that you've been learning all about plants and that you already know a lot about them. I also hear that you know that flowers make seeds and that seeds can grow into new plants. Well, I'm delighted to come and tell you about flowers because flowers are one of my favorite things in the whole world. The meadow near my beehive is full of different kinds of flowers. These are red and orange flowers and yellow flowers too. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of show you these pictures. So there's Polly, she's adorable. Okay. Earlier today, I visited a particularly delicious yellow flower. Come along and I'll show it to you. Here's the flower I was telling you about. Do you see this ring of bright yellow parts around the flowers? These are called the petals. The petals look like leaves, except they're very brightly colored. The petals are the part of the flower that grab my attention when I'm buzzing out around and about. But my favorite thing is to crawl inside the petals, right into the center of the flower. What's it like to crawl inside a flower like this? Imagine for a minute that you're crawling into a narrow tent made of bright yellow cloth. Bright yellow is all around you. Now imagine that you are inside your tent drinking the world's tastiest drink through a straw, and that you are so happy that you wriggle around and get covered with a yellow powder that smells great and feels good against your skin. That's what it's like for me when I visit a flower. As far as I'm concerned, the world's tastiest drink is called nectar, which is a sweet juice that plants make. I'm gonna show you me too, because it might be easier to listen to the story if you're looking at me too. So the juice inside of the flower, that's kind of like a drink for the bee, is called nectar. And the yellow powder that I like to rub up against is called pollen. I find both nectar and pollen inside flowers, and frankly, I don't know which one is better. I don't just visit one flower. I visit more than 50 flowers in one outing, sometimes 100. I visit these flowers because we bees get our food from flowers. My job is to fly around and find nectar and pollen, which I gather up and then take it back to my hive. I have a special pouch inside my body that holds nectar. And there are special hairs on my back legs that form a little basket that I brush the pollen into. When it's time to go back to my hive, sometimes my load of pollen and nectar weighs just as much as I do. When I get back to the hive, I turn the nectar and the pollen over to the worker bees inside the hive. They mix the pollen with a little bit of nectar and feed it to the baby bees. Then they fan the rest of the nectar with their wings until most of the water is gone. Can you guess what nectar turns into when most of the water is gone? So I'm gonna bring this up close so that you can see. So what she's saying is she has a little pouch that she puts the nectar in, and then she has little baskets on the backs of her leg that she puts, that she puts the pollen in. So, sorry. So it's just a drawing, but you can see she's got those little baskets on her legs. All right, and when she's all done, she takes it to the hive. The nectar, when all the water is gone, it turns into, maybe you've thought about it in your head and you might have a guess. Nectar with most of the water removed is called honey. Here's the honey in my hive. We bees use honey for food. We keep it in a bunch of little cubbies that we call the honeycomb. See all those little cubbies, just like the ones we have at school? Bunch of honey right inside those cubbies. I visit flowers to get food, and that's reason enough for me. But it turns out that I'm also doing something else besides finding food for myself and other bees. I am helping the plants reproduce or make more plants. In order to make a seed that can develop into a new plant, most plants need to mix pollen from their own flowers with pollen from other plants that are like them. For example, a corn plant needs pollen from another corn plant to allow it to make seeds. When pollen from one corn plant lands on another corn plant, something called pollination takes place. Pollination is really important because if it doesn't happen, the plant won't be able to make any seeds. And if there's no seeds, then there will be no new plants. Of course, a corn plant can't walk over to another corn plant and hand it some pollen. Can plants walk? We've talked about this before, right? Plants can't walk around like us, and they can't flap their wings and fly around like bees either. But the pollen grains themselves are very small. They can be blown here and there by the wind. When the wind blows, it can blow pollen from one corn plant to another, or from one pretty yellow flower to another. So the wind also helps pollinate plants so that we can get new plants. But I also help pollinate plants. Can you think how my trips from one plant to another might help pollinate plants? When I visit a flower and roll around inside, I pick up a lot of pollen. When I fly onto the next flower, I carry some pollen When I fly onto the next flower, I carry some pollen from other flowers with me, and some of it rubs off onto the next flower I visit. That's why I am excellent pollinator of plants, and that's why they call me Polly the Pollinator. I don't like to brag, but we bees are the most important pollinators in the world. Oh, sure, the wind helps pollinate, and some other insects also carry grains of pollen from one plant to another. Butterflies do it, some moths, beetles, and wasps. Some birds, like hummingbirds, are also good pollinators. And believe it or not, so are bats. But nothing pollinates as many flowers as bees do. Okay, so a couple of important words to remember. Nectar is the sweet juice that's made inside the plant. Polly loves to go in and drink the juice. Pollen is the yellow powder made by the plant. If you look close, you can see kind of all that pollen just up. It's coming out of the inside of the plant. And why do bees visit flowers? Do you remember? It's kind of a lot of new things that I just talked about. They use the nectar and the pollen from flowers for food. And how do bees collect the nectar and the pollen? Do you remember the picture I showed you? With her pouch and her little baskets on her legs. That's how they collect it. Okay, so the big word for today is pollination. Pollination happens when pollen goes from one flower to another flower, either by the bees carrying it around or by the wind. It can just blow. When the wind blows, the pollen will leave one flower and blow to the next plant. It's called pollination. So let's do the syllables in pollination. Ready? Pollination. How many times did your chin go down? 4 syllables. So that's all from Polly for today. She's going to be our friend for a couple of days. Let me just take a real quick sneak peek just so I can remember. Oh yeah, we'll see her again tomorrow. I miss you guys. I hope you're doing well, and maybe today or tomorrow or sometime you could go outside and you could take a look at a flower or a plant, or maybe just look at something outside and just observe. Remember what observe means? It just means look around, take time to look and to see and to ask questions. Okay, I will talk to you guys soon. Miss you tons.